Yesterday, the giant redwoods of California watched the three top riders of the 2009 Amgen Tour of California put in their bid to eclipse the podium of 2010. Levi Leipheimer, Michael Rogers and Dave Zabriskie raced into Santa Cruz dreaming of yellow. For Zabriskie, it happened, and his narrow victory on Beach Road made him the next leader overall. But there are still 5 days to go, and his lead is far from safe. Let battle resume on stage 4 of the Amgen Tour of California, next on Versus. Today, the riders in the Amgen Tour of California reach the halfway stage, at least in days, as they start from the town of San Jose, the oldest town in California, created back in 1777. This is now stage 4, a long way, 122 miles to the cultural center of California, Modesto. And that's where a big crowd will await the rides today, and it is a glorious, warm, sunny day here in California. Hello everybody and welcome back to our Amgen Tour of California. Today's stage brought to us by Breakaway from Cancer. I'm Phil Liggett, this is Paul Showing. Paul, yesterday we saw the big three boys of 2009 give it their best shot.
It really was amazing. We expected that Levi Leipheimer was going to go out on the attack, but to be joined by Mick Rogers and Dave Zabriskie, that was an indication that those guys are here not to play games. That was serious racing.
It was action all the way yesterday and it was in glorious summer conditions. Let's have a look how it went. At the start, we'd gone over the Golden Gate Bridge and we were bound from San Francisco heading towards Santa Cruz.
Well, as always, Breakaway forming very early on, a breakaway of 5 riders. On this occasion, they weren't given that much of an advantage because in the main field behind Phil, they didn't want that breakaway to go too far up the road.
Radio Shack were trying to keep that breakaway under control, but they had a little bit of a hiccup along the way. Lance Armstrong needed a new bike, so they had to slow down. The breakaway went out by another minute.
No panic on board for Armstrong because teammates waited alongside to pace him back into the main field. But there were a number of crashes out on the road, and this young man, Steenson from Saxo Bank, went down very hard indeed. And although he didn't look so good, he did get back up and into the race.
Then, as the boys ran along the Pacific Highway, there was an attack here by Will Routley of Team Jelly Belly. He was trying to be first onto the climb of the day at Bonnie Doon. Everybody wanted to be there. The result was 1 or 2 didn't even make the corner. The catch was made as the climb started to bite. And then came the attack. And this is our look now at the electric performance of the day, presented by Nissan Leaf. Paul, this was the move. They brought Levi Leipheimer up to the front.
They've been waiting for this. This was planned. The boys from Radio Shack really put the hammer down and split the race to pieces over the first couple of kilometers. But as Levi Leipheimer attacked, he was very rapidly joined first by Michael Rogers of HTC Columbia and Australia, and then Dave Zabriskie.
So the big crowd were now witnessing the big three of 1 year ago dictating the pace. It looked like a runaway, but the race reformed behind. Peter Sagan took it a little bit too seriously, fell off his bike, remounted and rejoined. The 3 leaders were heading over the top towards Santa Cruz, but the gap was closing down. The boys behind were chasing. 1 kilometer to go. They were going to hang on from a very elite chase group. And as they came in off Beach Road, it was the man that made the first move for the tight left-hand turn into the finish, Dave Zabriskie, who would win his first ever stage and would eventually pull on to his first ever yellow jersey of an Amgen Tour of California. And that after 2 second places in the past.
Well, the lunge for the line, and Mick Rogers almost got it throwing his bike, but Dave Zabriskie had judged that to perfection, and he absolutely wanted to go across that line in first place. And there is confirmation with Levi Leipheimer crossing the line in third, but in the same time as the other 2 riders.
Well, let's have a look how it stands. The Home Depot overall standing shows Zabriskie, the new leader now, 4 seconds ahead of Michael Rogers, 6 ahead of Levi Leipheimer. Peter Sagan is the best young rider in 4th place. Mark DeMar is there as well. Further down, Rory Sutherland in the action at 8. Tom Danielson completing the top 10. Lance Armstrong sits 27 seconds off. He is in 12th place, so he's still right there as well. But he's always told us he's trying to support Levi Leipheimer for that record 4th win. Today, Paul, it might be one of the last days for the sprinters because it's a tough route this year.
Well, the sprinters, I think, will like to come out and play today. There's a couple of climbs in the middle of the course, but really, Phil, as the riders move away from the start of San Jose this morning, moving in a westerly direction, slight incursion into the hills to begin with, but it's a flat run into the finish in Modesto, where I think probably you'll see the main field coming back together to give the sprinters a chance to show us why they're the fastest men in the world. The profile, you can see a little bit of a difficult start, though, over Sierra Road. That'll be great to see a breakaway go clear early on. That lumpy part in the middle is where the breakaway should consolidate its advantage, but watch out towards the end, Phil, for the big chase down.
Okay, our Rabobank checking the stats in. The big one coming early on, as Paul has said. We lost another rider yesterday, only 4 gone. 13 of the 16 teams competing are still very much intact. Last year when we came into Modesto, the winner was Tor Hushovd. Hushovd isn't here. He in fact broke his collarbone before this race began. Well, we said we think that this is a day for the sprinters, and as we've said, there aren't too many days for the sprinters. Mark Cavendish has got to be at the top of our list, right?
Absolutely. He is the fastest man in the world. You can be certain that when he comes down towards the finish line, if it is a bunch sprint, they will all be queuing up for his wheel. But this is how he wins his sprints. Set up by the team perfectly over the last 3 or 4 kilometres. Then over the last 4 or 5 100 metres, he's set up by Mark Renshaw. But I tell you one thing, JJ Hayedo was looking quite good the other day in Sacramento, and he could too be a challenger to Mark Cavendish.
So, wearing the Herbalife point leaders jersey, let's have a look now at the green jersey standings. Cavendish is on a close battle here with Peter Sagan, but he doesn't believe, Sagan, that he can beat Cavendish in the sprint. David Zabriskie is in 3rd place after his win yesterday. Lancaster, who won the day before, he's also there in 4th. This is going to be a battle today, royale, I think, of the sprinters. Well, let's catch up now with early today with the Herbalife sign-in. This was down at the start at San Jose. And everybody enjoying a lovely warm summer's morning here. Dave Zabriskie, the first time he's worn the leader's yellow jersey at the Herbalife sign-in. And Levi Leipheimer played a big card yesterday. He wasn't able to slip away like last year, but he's reduced the chances by quite a few now. He's feeling pretty good with this. Lance Armstrong entertained with the crowd. They wanted him to sign up for some of the gears. He's just checking out they spelled his name right. He couldn't find out what it was, but he's on the ballot, said the crowd, as he hands it back and says thanks a lot. Seems to be enjoying his tour, and I think yesterday was a big morale boost for him. He rode very, very well indeed. There he is, Dave Zabriskie in yellow. Very happy. He says when the sun comes out, I love it in California, and he certainly showed that to us yesterday as he rode so well to grab that win. Rolling away then, as they're heading out now. The first obstacle on the way, the big mountain, the first category of this year's tour at Sierra Road, coming very early. Now, normally on this race, it has come very late, but this year there was a breakaway getting clear on it. Originally 7 strong, but as they went along the road, they got reduced to 7 riders. So the 7 riders are reduced to 4. This was the result over Sierra Road. Ryan Anderson in the break yesterday was right up there. This is for the Californian Travel and Tourism King of the Mountains competition. Rob Britton 2nd, Lars Boom over that in 3rd. At the Herbalife sprint at Livermore. Important this, Lars Boom getting 3 seconds bonus there over the Californian Tourism again. 2nd climb on the Mind Road. This is where the breakaway just disintegrated. Anderson won it and then was promptly dropped from the breakaway. And so there's now only 4 riders, and I hope you're enjoying these pictures in high definition because they are available to you. And looking down below, a little bit of mist on the windscreen there, so we're getting a little drizzle in the air. This is the V Australia weather. Forecast is overcast, 74 degrees and a very light wind indeed. So the 4 riders, Lars Boom, Jürgen van der Volle, Jeremy Powers from Jelly Belly and Robert Britton from Bissell. They're the boys left up front. The leader of the tour on the road, if we were to end it right now, is Lars Bohm, because he started the day a minute and 47 seconds off the race lead. So as I see Garmin transitions are beginning to chase, Radio Shack are willing to put their back behind it, so too Leaky Gas. Well, it looks as though it wasn't bottled water on the windscreen for it. It is in fact starting to rain out there, and with the forecast that rain might come in the mountains, but it should leave them as they start to join the flatter roads as we come down into the finish here in Modesto. That was Fabian Cancellara 2 days ago in the rain on the road to Santa Rosa. That ended any thoughts Cancellara may have had of winning this race. He lost over 12 minutes.
He lost a huge chunks of time and any chance at all of winning the Amgen Tour of California this year, Phil. We've had most of the hard part of the course is now behind us. At the start of the day, that little climb, that Sierra Road, I think a lot of riders were gasping for air because it was straight out of the starting blocks and over that. Then the little bit of the climbs in the middle now starting to be behind the riders. We're going to very shortly start the long descent to the outskirts of Modesto. And that's why we can see the main field now starting to line itself out into a big long line. And the big top 3 teams, Garmin Transitions, Radio Shack and HTC Columbia, they're going to come together and try and chase down that 4-man breakaway.
Well, Zabrisky's team heading the peloton on this charge down the mountain. And that's not to be surprising. The pressure is now on Zabriskie to try and control this race because he can handle himself in the time trial. There's the leaders for you, Bohm, Van der Walle, Britton and Powers. For the first time, a long breakaway containing 2 of the top Pro Tour team riders here. So those boys are taking it a bit more serious now, and this could create a little bit of a ripple back there in the peloton. We'll take our first break. See you in a moment. Well, that's our jersey update by ADT there, and this is Fabian Cancellara back at the team car, just chatting with the squad there, wearing his colours as champion of Switzerland. He had a couple of weeks off after that wonderful classic season he had, winning Paris-Roubaix, the Tour of Flanders, the Grand Prix E3, and now he's on his way back, but he will be disappointed he lost so much time a couple of days ago in the very wet weather, because now even this man, who's the most brilliant time trialist expert in the world, can't recover the time he lost on the short time out around Los Angeles towards the weekend. So he's now playing the part here of the super domestique. Give me all the bottles you've got, I'll get them back to the boys in the breakaway. That's his job. Going to go and seek them out. There's a light drizzle in the air, but I wouldn't call it rain, so there'll be not too much concern about this today. That's it. He's loaded up as Saxo Bank have given him all of their bottles there. And by the way, Saxo Bank having a wonderful Giro d'Italia because they've now got the race leader in that event as well after today, and it is their new boy on the block, Richie Porte, an Australian from Tasmania who's in the pink. That is a tremendous achievement today. So let's just keep our eyes on the front here. HTC have got themselves on the front. Let's have a look at the ADT jersey update. There they are. Zabriskie has got the Amgen yellow. Routley yesterday was voted the most courageous rider for breakaway from cancer. Cavendish is in the Herbalife green points jersey. Sagan is in the Rabobank white best young rider jersey. And the California Travel and Tourism King of the Mountains currently held also by Routley. So let's have a look then a little bit more about a team that seems to attack daily, including Routley there, and that's the Jelly Belly team.
Jelly Belly is a great fit for me. It's a good group of guys, all young. Everybody's super ambitious. The company's been around, Jelly Belly's been sponsoring the team for 11 years. It's the longest running sponsor in the U.S. Some of the goals for this team that I want as an individual to help establish is to make it more of a professional level team where people fear us. When we show up to the races, I want people to say, oh man, Jelly Belly's here, and they know that we're there to race.
Mike has come on this year with a lot of experience. He was formerly riding on a Pro Tour team. So he has tons of race experience, and he's a good personality. He's really positive, so he's naturally become a leader. But one of the nice things about our team is we all have a good amount of input, and there's a good number of us that are quite strong in the racing. So we've already been able to mix up who's the leader and who's going for results on a weekly basis.
This year's been a really successful start for the season for the team. We went 3rd, 4th, and 5th at Tour of Redlands, and I won Tour of Thailand overall, and Mike Friedman won the Tour of Korea overall. So we've all gotten a chance to kind of taste the podium, and we've all supported each other in that role. So, you know, we have the mentality this season that's kept, I think, our team winning races, and that's when we see a guy who has an opportunity to win a stage that we go all in, all of us, to help him do that. So That being said, there's some guys on the team that will make it possible for one of us to win a stage.
It's a much closer-knit family than I've had in the past. Everybody's really willing to put 100% of their effort into the road. And that's a big difference, and that's the most enjoyable part for me.
Well, hats off to the Jelly Belly team. They're having a tremendous Amgen Tour of California. There's the full squad for you. That's where they sit overall, but they attack on a daily basis. Routley was the big attacker yesterday. Jeremy Powers is their man today. We've seen the others also putting the nose out front. They're not afraid of opposition, though they have lost a couple of their riders there, as you can see. So the ups and downs of pro bike racing, I guess. A little nasty climb coming here. There's no more official mountains left on today's stage, but there's plenty of uphills, that's for sure. Looks as though again, Paul, being treated to the same teams who believe they carry the winner of this tour in the next 4 days, and that's Leaky Gas, Garmin Transitions, HTC Columbia and Radio Shack. They do all of the work, and they've got all the men up the front, and I see Steve Kozler is up here as well.
Yeah, it's good to see Garmin Transitions assuming the role of leader of this race. They know that they've got a very good chance of winning this year with their man Dave Zabriskie, who got himself the lead yesterday overall by getting himself across the line in first place. It's amazing to think that although Zabriskie wins lots and lots of time trials around the world, he hadn't actually won a road race since he won a stage of the Welter way back in 2004.
Well, that's a very good point. That's the second time that's happened, hasn't it? Because we have Brett Lancaster the day before doing exactly the same. He'd never won a road race till he won into Santa Rosa in 2000 this year, since 2004. But this field now is doing their job. The Garmin Transition boys just keeping this race in control right now. As they're swooping down here. Everybody together, the men that matter in the front half of the peloton, maybe in the front quarter of the peloton. And they're not too worried about that breakaway just yet. We've still a long way to go. See you in just a moment. There's the finish. We're all ready now for the riders, but there's still about 45 miles or so out in the mountains as we look down here on the peloton. Stage 4 today, it's a long one. It's 122 miles. It'll be even further, by the way, tomorrow. It's going to be another long day in the saddle for these riders as we head towards Modesto. Well, at the start this morning, Bob Roll was there. And in our Home Depot interview, he went and sought out Levi Leipheimer, the man that started the move yesterday.
Good tactical situation yesterday. You had yourself in the break and a lot of teammates in a pretty select group on the last climb of the day.
Yeah, exactly, and that was a bit of a tactic towards the end to kind of slow down who I was with, because we figured it would be better to keep the other four close to the top of the classification, because in my opinion, the two guys I wanted to gain time on, I wasn't really gaining time on them, so it didn't really make sense to make too big of a gap. And then unfortunately, I misjudged the finish. It was a tricky one, and Dave got the jump on us, and it is what it is, but the race ain't over.
And a pretty hard stage today also. What's the tactic for today?
I predict a field sprint, so I think today, we've had 2 days now. Radio Shack has controlled the race, so maybe we'll take the day off and let someone else control.
All right. Best of luck, Levi.
Thanks.
Levi, you're a local guy.
So there we are. That's why they were leading and seemingly on a runaway over the top of that last climb of Donnybrook, and it was all shut down because they didn't want to take two bad riders with them. That's good thinking there, Levi. There's the four riders who are still in front. 73 kilometers still to go, and the gap at 4 minutes 20 just now. Just watching these four, Paul. I think the weaker ones, there were three others. They've gone some time ago now. They have been caught by the peloton, who are actually riding pretty quickly. But it looks as though these boys have also started to speed up again, because we're holding at 4 minutes 20 the gap. And I'm sure that there's some hard work being done by all of these fours. Once they're through from the hills, the rain, I'm pretty sure, will stay in the mountains today. It's only a misty rain anyway. And that they will get onto the flatter roads and really have the chance to drive. And they're going to put all of the pressure today, I would suspect, on the team of Garmin Transitions of the leader, Zabriskie. It'll be up to them to chase down Lars Bohm. And there might be a little help coming from HTC Columbia, because they know if they can deliver Cavendish in sight of that finishing line, he's almost guaranteed to win. He is so fast and so confident once he gets a good shot at the line.
Yeah, the team will do what they can to set him up to perfection, Phil, coming up to the finishing line here. But I tell you one thing, there will be a huge queue, a huge battle from the other sprinters trying to get into his slipstream, because they know if they want to win the bike race, that's the man to watch, that's the man to mark. And we saw, I think, on the first day around Sacramento, a lot of the carnage was created by the fights to try and get to. And when I say fights, I don't mean literally fisticuffs, but argy-bargy trying to get to the wheel of Mark Cavendish.
That's right. And for that reason, you see, HTC, Cavendish's team, have put 2 riders in the chase. And that's their participation in the chase back. So they sent 2 men up to share the pace with Garmin Transitions. I see Armstrong's team is just dodging in the shadows. They're going to keep an eye out for Levi Leipheimer. Man with his hand up wants to leave the room, but in fact he probably wants a drink, or he's signalling for a softening back tire. He might want to do a wheel change here. And that looks like the rider who had the nasty fall yesterday. Oh no, it's Stewie O'Grady, isn't it? Yes, Stuart O'Grady. They're just going around the back. The rider who fell, by the way, looked bad, but he was okay, Stenson. So just looking here as we go through beautiful countryside, already looking a little bit parched, although of course summer's only just creeping into central California. Having a little bit of rain here, but the drought situation, I must confess, of the last few years has ended abruptly and dumped on the riders into Santa Rosa. But now we're looking here to Stewie O'Grady, who once won Paris-Roubaix in emphatic fashion, as he now chats on his little race radio here to try and assess what is going on. So HTC, all the confidence in Cavendish, 2 men assisting Zabriskie's Garmin Transitions team on the chase back. I reckon we'll see the time coming down pretty rapidly in the next 20 miles or so. Welcome back to the Amgen Tour of California today with Breakaway for Cancer. This is the 4th stage. We're heading to the halfway, at least in days now, and the breakaway up front is in hot pursuit, or is being hotly pursued by the whole field behind now, and I don't think it can possibly survive. They really want Lars Bohm, the Dutchman, back in the bunch. We're looking at the Herbalife points leaders jersey here on the back of Mark Cavendish. Not a big lead he's got, by the way. Peter Sagan is taking him very, very close here, so Mark will look to get maximum points today, if he can, on the finishing line by winning the stage. That will be his aim, because it may be the last chance he's got to do it. Now, as you can see, they're all dragged out in a straight line here. They're all taking each other's pace. They're drafting one another. Those behind are saving energy. And we can now learn a little bit more about drafting in the peloton. How are you going? As we now look at this, sponsored by MBT.
One of the most spectacular sights in all of sport is a tightly packed peloton as they ride by en masse. But staying close together on the road is not just for show, it's actually a survival tactic and plays a large role in energy conservation.
It's actually 30% less effort when you're in someone's draft. It's the key to survival out there and just being efficient.
Riding in the pocket of air behind another rider, known as the slipstream, increases the pack's overall speed and allows riders to conserve energy until it's needed. Based on team goals, different riders will take turns riding at the front, doing the work for others.
Just as you see the geese flying north or south in the V formation, it's the same exact thing. You stick out in the wind, you get blown away.
Another formation you might see on the road is known as the echelon. When strong crosswinds are present, the riders line up in a diagonal formation across the road, take turns at the front, sheltering one another and increasing speed. Energy conservation is a key to success on any given stage. Therefore, drafting is a necessity for all riders, regardless of what form it takes.
Yes, Inside the Peloton, brought to you by MBT. Now we're all experts of how these guys know how to use their effort against the wind and, of course, their common enemy, the rest of the riders in the bike race. At the moment, they're in a straight line. There's very little wind blowing today as the riders now all being escorted by Dave Zabriskie's Garmin Transitions team, and they're in hot pursuit. Well, not quite hot pursuit. Still 4 minutes, 10 seconds, the gap to those 4 leaders. Well, as our helicopter sweeps in across the field here, just on 64 kilometers left to go, 4 minutes, 10 seconds the gap. That is a very long field right now, Paul, and they're probably doing about 60 kilometers an hour.
They are. It's quite strange here, Phil, because as they move along this road, the road in this part of the state is in fact the county between the border between two counties, San Joaquin County and Stanislaus County, and so on either side of the road there's a different county line. The interesting thing about Stanislaus County, it's actually a word that comes from the German, and the reason for that is that a lot of Southerners from the war of the Civil War in the United States moved down to this state after the finish of the war way back in the 1700s.
Interesting route today, in as much it continually changes all directions. It goes in every direction of the compass, I think. We start as we've left San Jose riding northeast, then we go due north for quite a long way, then we continue northeast, then we plunge due south for quite a long way before we finally turn left and go east, young man, I think that's what they say, as we head now towards Modesto for the finish. So although there isn't much wind to affect it, it will be a very interesting route as far as wind direction normally would go to affect these riders. They're just knocked off 5 seconds. It's nothing at all, 5 seconds at the moment. These boys are just holding this breakaway. I think they're building for a big chase once they get out of these high mountain roads and drop onto the valleys where the roads will be straighter and certainly a lot flatter.
And that's when you see the real chase come on for these riders. It really start to whip it up, because that's when they'll start to charge down towards the finish line. That's when the teams of the sprinters look at a little bit more agitated, a little bit more excited, once they can start to smell the possibility of a victory for their man.
Last boom, number 31. Here's the one they want back, because he's overnight deficit of 1 minute and 47 seconds. Means for the moment at least he's recovered all and more, so he's the race leader virtual on the road. The race leader is Dave Zabriskie. Whirling for the first time ever, though he's finished second twice in the Tour of California, on his way to those 2 second places in 06 and last year. Never won a stage and never wore the leader's colours. Well, he's done one thing now, and that's wear the race leader's colours. And you may remember, of course, the last time we saw Dave Zabriskie in yellow, it was in the Tour de France in 2005, when he wore the yellow jersey for 3 days, crashing out in the team time trial. A spectacular exit indeed in yellow. We'll take a break and rejoin us. Yes, so there we are, back with the whole peloton in the Tour of California, dreaming, as we all are, of the upcoming Tour de France, when Armstrong will go again, alongside with Levi Leipheimer, I'm sure. And at the start this morning, Lance Armstrong was out and about chatting to his fans, but he's also chatting to our Bob Roll, who's his old teammate as well. So here is our Home Depot interview.
Lance, a pretty enviable tactical situation on the last climb of the day, with a lot of guys in the front group and Levi up the road.
Yeah, it was for a second. It was interesting. It was very negative for a few kilometers there, but the guys got organized over the top, and I think that, you know, Liquid Gas realized they had potential there. Cervelo realized they had potential there, and but Levi was, I mean, as we suspected, he was good. Rogers was good, and so was Zabriskie. I mean, I think if you pick before the race your 3 favorites, those would be the 3. So they displayed that yesterday.
And until the perhaps next strategic moment, which is the time trial, what's the strategy?
There's, you know, we have a few really hard days. Today is the easiest of the 3. Tomorrow, I think, is deceivingly hard. The climb in the middle is you know, 10 kilometers at 9%. So that means it's for real. And then of course Friday is a day that is in my estimation, is a 7-hour day. So it's going to hurt us all. And you know, these things add up, and people get tired over the course of a week, and then finally, I suspect between those 3, it comes down to the time trial.
And your form, it seems to be improving each day with the Amgen Tour of California as it goes along.
I guess it's getting better. I hope it's getting better.
All right, good luck, Lance.
Yes, well, Lance Armstrong, not giving too much away, but that 7-hour day, my goodness me, that is the climb of Big Bear Lake. Empty roads. We're told there's a lot of cattle around this part of the woods, and to watch out for them on the highway today, but they're looking as though they're behaving themselves at the moment. Well, these 4 leaders, we do talk them down a little bit, Paul, but they're still holding on to 3.5 minutes. But just thinking of what remains in this race, Lance Armstrong still going to support Levi Leipheimer, but He's talking of a 7-hour day in the saddle when on Friday we go to Big Bear Lake, and that's a long time for staying in the saddle.
Well, the thing is, that's going to make it a very decisive stage, because that big climb down towards the end, if you've got a 6-hour ride before you start that final climb of the day, it's really going to be some of the freshest riders who are going to come up with the victory on that occasion, and that's going to be a serious day in the saddle. I think it's going to be one of the most magnificent stages that we will have seen ever in the Amgen Tour of California. With the move to the month of May, it's actually allowed the race to go higher up into the mountains. Otherwise, previously in February, that was just not possible.
Well, it's, this stage today is an example, like the climb of Mines Road. We've added that in because normally we wouldn't have done that in the month of February, as was the case. But also hot on the trails, we look at Andy Schleck here. I don't know what happened to him yesterday when he missed that split coming into Beach Road finish, because he was right there and he disappeared. But the time trial following on from that 7-hour day, and then a very hilly final stage of 4 laps of a 32-kilometre circuit. It really is the last 3 days of very decisive racing.
Oh, it's going to be a great thing to commentate on.
Well, it is for us.
Action every day.
Yes.
And at least we don't have to spend 7 hours on the bike with these guys and then try and ride an individual time trial. 33 kilometres the individual time trial. It's going to be extremely decisive. Currently, it looks like a big battle between Mick Rogers, Dave Zabriskie and Levi Leipheimer. But with the climb to Big Bear Lake, that could all change.
Yeah, and the battle for the white jersey, young Peter Stettner here, who, by the way, is the son of the former international Wayne Stettner, very close in the battle alongside for the white jersey of Peter Sagan. And Stettner is a very, very good time trialist, but the trouble is these boys are young, and that climb to Big Bear Lake, 7 hours, they may not have the stamina to survive such a tough test just yet. But we'll find out. Sorry, Paul, carry on.
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, definitely. That's going to be very difficult for the youngsters.
Just watching the riders here, this is a lovely piece of scenery as well. We're deep in the center of California today as we go to what is seen as the center of California, the city of Modesto. They're working their way closer. Every time we take a break, we come back. They've nosed off a few more seconds, and he's got room to smile, hasn't he? See you in a moment. Welcome back as we're looking now at the leaders here. Well, not the leaders of the race, but the leaders of the peloton. Bert Grab setting the pace for HTC Columbia. We are on the 4th day of the Amgen Tour of California. Today brought us a break away from cancer. And you see the gap has come down a little bit more since you went away. 2:45 now to the 4 riders up front. And they are slowly bringing them all back. And one man who is searching for the magical form that once won him 7 Tours de France is Lance Armstrong. And he looks as though he's beginning to refine himself in these early days of the Tour of California. So here's our Michelob Ultra athlete profile.
The Tour of California is totally different this year than last year, just by virtue of its place on the calendar. The weather will be different. Obviously, the course is slightly different. The competition will be different phases of their season as well. I mean, you're going to have guys that are thinking about the Tour, but also keyed up to this event. Middle of May is not that far from early July, so guys will be flying. Just by virtue of him winning the previous 3 years, Levi's the big favorite. Michael Rogers has had a good year. I think Zabriskie is, if he can be, is good, if not better than he was last year. Certainly has the ability to time trial. Cancellara is a priority to get rid of him before that time trial. Andy Schleck. Andy's a great young talent, potentially a future Tour de France winner. I'd love to see a guy like George Hincapie up there. An 8-day race with a lot of ups and downs always has its share of surprises. The Tour de France is, as we all know, the biggest bike race in the world. That's our biggest priority, but Tour of California is right up there, so it's the second biggest race of the year for us. We come with 8 strong guys and hope that Levi can get another victory.
Yes, that's our Michelob Ultra athlete profile. Lance Armstrong is uncanny that. Recorded, of course, before the Tour de California. He absolutely read the race right so far. 38 years of age, he's lost none of his mental alertness, has he? Just got to make sure he's still got the talent that won him Tour de France on 7 occasions. and he was 7th overall in this race last year. He's currently sitting in 12th at the moment, but only 27 seconds off the yellow jersey. Oh, there he is. Tom Bonen wears number 51, the champion of Belgium. Dumped unceremoniously on the road in sight of the finishing line in Sacramento, and burnt off both his shorts and his jersey there with the lycra. Let's hope he's feeling better. So just looking here at the main field, and so far everything Lance Armstrong has said before this Tour de France began, this Amgen Tour of California began, Paul. He predicted all the right names, and they're in the top 3 positions. And he knows that he said we must get rid of Fabian Cancellara. Well, they've done that, put him back to 12 minutes. So at the moment, Radio Shack are having a good tour.
They've done everything that they wanted to do so far, and I don't think they're too concerned about not being in the lead at the moment, because they realise, and as we've seen on the stage today, it puts the responsibility on the shoulders of somebody else. It wears out Dave Zabriskie a little bit, maybe mentally being the leader of this race, and that's very often what people tend to forget about, Phil. When you're leading a bike race, there's a lot of stress involved in doing that, and it takes a very special character to be able to take that stress on board.
Yes, and that's. I think he's still staying very mentally strong. We just don't know how his physical side is, which we will by the end of this tour, I think. And he's looking good. It's coming. 2:45, 2 3/4 minutes, 53 kilometres still to ride. It's not a long way still. That's around about 33 miles, and they should do that, you know, in what, 45 minutes at the most. Maybe no, not quite that quick. It's just on an hour of racing left probably as we run away. It's a lot of a downhill course now before we get to the roads that run us into the finish in Modesto. They're pretty straightforward. Little bit of a tricky old manoeuvre around the city itself. These boys are going to just stick to the task in hand and hope that they lose their concentration behind. That's the big object of the day now. Santa Jose, where we started this morning, is one of the cycling centres. They've got one of the 9 velodromes that are here in the United States, in San Jose. So we expect to see a lot of cyclists at the start. There were plenty there, but most of them had got on the bikes and ridden up the Sierra Road climb to see the riders go over the top there.
Well, that was one place that everybody wanted to be, just sliding back here. A little chance here to see Tom Peterson, a winner of a stage last year in the Amgen Tour of California, and still one of the young talents on Garmin Transitions. He's dropping back, probably to take on board drinks for his team leader, Dave Zabriskie, who will just sit at the front end of the pack and keep an eye on affairs, because he knows today, theoretically, there shouldn't be a challenge, but you have to make sure, because you never know what can be around a corner. If you lay down your guard, you lay down your arms for a moment, all of a sudden you can find a split and you can lose 15 or 20 seconds. Now, he's only leading this race currently by 4 seconds from Mick Rogers and 6 seconds from Levi Leipheimer.
Nothing at all in it. Blanket across a lot of the field just at the moment, and any man can win with the right luck. Of that, there is no doubt at all. 52 kilometres are still to go. Just looking here, well, look at the Lars Boom here. He's anxious to get on with this. What a great talent for the future. He is World Cyclocross champion, riding exceptionally well. See you in a moment. Welcome back. The view of downtown Modesto here, where it's just a slight sprinkling of rain coming down, but nothing to worry about just yet. Now remember, the 97th Tour de France is just around the corner. Versus has teamed up with Map My Ride for the 2010 Le Tour Challenge to benefit the American Diabetes Association Tour de Cure program. The Le Tour Challenge is your opportunity to ride alongside Lance Armstrong and the other top pros in the 2010 Tour de France. Sign up today at mapmyride.com/Tour de France. No changes yet at the front. The peloton are still chasing these 4 riders who've led for most of the day. There were 7, they're down to 4. They're just on 50 kilometres or 31 miles from the finish. And they're leaving all of the work to just one team, HTC, and a little bit of help from leaky gas. And time to clean the camera lens as the rain is starting to come down just a little bit heavier. Nice shot of Lance Armstrong. He's thinking, oh boy, here we go again into the rain. I don't think it's going to get that serious today, Lance. He's everything's under control for Radio Shack. Oops, steady on there. Don't know what happened then, but he almost freaked, I thought. Well, as we watch the Radio Shack boys go through our lens here, and there is Team High Road, the green jersey of Herbalife. That's Mark Cavendish, sat there keeping himself out of trouble. Busy man, Bob Roll, today at the start before the riders head off. So chance now for our Home Depot interview with the man from Australia, Michael Rogers.
It's pretty obvious what Radio Shack had in mind leading up to the last climb of Bonnie Doon. How was it in the position battle there just before the bottom?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I knew the course from last year, and I knew the road was relatively thin. I had a few of my teammates did a really good job. Kept me up there and right on the back of the Radio Shack train, and I mean, they just hit the gas as soon as I saw the climb, and I was ready for it.
You must be pretty pleased to find a really difficult breakaway with two of the other pre-race favorites beside yourself.
Yeah, certainly. I think we showed that we're all in top condition, and it's going to be a tough fight. Dave was very smart in the finish. Got the jump on us a little bit, and with the corner only being 150 metres from the finish line, he got that little jump, and if it had been a metre longer, I think I would have got him, but Dave rode well, and it's nice to get at least we got a 17-second gap to the group behind, so that's 17 seconds in our favour.
And how was the shared effort in the breakaway with the pretty big group breathing down your necks the whole time?
Yeah, I think Levi and I did Levi did a lot of the work on the climb, and I helped him a little bit. Dave didn't do much, and I don't think Dave was fully committed until the last couple of kilometres, and then Levi obviously had 4 or 5 guys behind, and he lost a little bit of commitment. Well, I think we're very lucky just to get to the finish. If we could have put our head down and just rode to the finish as hard as we could, I think we could have had still a 40-second lead. So 17 seconds is better than nothing, though.
And what's the strategy until the Saturday's time trial stage?
I still think the Big Bear stage, it will be a tough stage. I mean, we'll just see if the opportunity arises. For sure, I'll take it and attack.
All right, good luck.
Thanks.
Oh, we're building for a major explosion in the next few days of the Amgen, that's for sure. Well, at the moment, it's Rogers' teammate, Bert Graps, setting the pace on the front. Those big legs from the former world time trial champion, holding the peloton together. Just looking back, Paul, to that three-man escape yesterday on the last climb of Bonnie Doon. So many tactics caused that breakaway to fail, I think, at the end of the day, because the 3 best riders in the Tour, the 3 pre-race favourites going away together, it's not something you want to do, ride with each other to the line, is it?
No, but they felt that was a good opportunity to put some time between themselves and everybody else to sort out the hierarchy in the race, and that's exactly what they did. At one moment, though, I did think it was going to be a runaway victory, especially when they got themselves up to 1.5 minutes advantage. But it just goes to show the depth of the field this year, because from a 1.5 minute advantage a couple of years ago in the Amgen Tour of California, they never would have been seen again. But the main field and the group behind, they pulled it back to a mere 17 seconds on the line, because there's a lot of other strong teams not prepared to allow this race to go free.
Well, that's true. Now, although Zabriskie did win the day, it has to be said he was not pulling his weight in that breakaway till the last couple of kilometres, when he thought, right, well, they're fairly close, but try and get the win. Because the big thing was I don't think anyone wanted to build up a big lead over the peloton and thereby destroy their own teammates, who, when they start playing tactics later, may be able to leapfrog over those 3 guys in front and steal the show. A little bit of wind in the palm trees there now as they're wisping away. These are the 4 leaders here. And the yellow jersey is at 3 minutes 15. That's Zabriskie, but all of the race leaders' coloured jerseys are in that pack today. The white jersey of Peter Sagan, best young rider. Rabo, the California Tourism King of the Mountains leader, he's back there. And, of course, the green jersey of Mark Cavendish for Herbalife, he's also in that back group. So they're all waiting for their moment when they can play their own tactics. These boys have got their shoulders well away from the hills now, and we're into not the suburbs of Modesto yet, but we're onto better roads for racing, away from the mountains. There's the team car coming up to have a word with Lars Boom and encourage him and tell him what is happening behind, but he'll know. He's an experienced professional. He'll know that Armstrong's boys are chasing. We'll take a break. Well, there is the beauty of the Australia aerial of the day today, as our camera scorches over the parched countryside here in central California, but there is a slight drizzle in the air. As we're now looking out here, still 4 riders away. Well, our Bob Roll back in action today. He's now taking part in the MBT Festival as he checks out what goes on around the course.
Every day at the Amgen Tour of California, at the finish line, there's a gigantic outdoor expo, and it's been sponsored this year by MBT Shoes. 100 million years ago or so, Homo erectus separated themselves from the chimpanzees by walking upright. And although mankind has evolved quite a bit since then, shoes haven't. Until now, I'm here with Mitchell Mann from MTB Shoes. He's going to explain some of the attributes of this new product.
MBT is a revolutionary new product that's simply been designed to allow the body to walk and stand as nature intended, on soft, uneven, natural ground that creates a little bit of instability. That technology has been proven scientifically to have a positive effect on the entire structure by reducing the impact to our bodies from walking on concrete, forcing correct posture, and also used as a recovery tool by the Fly V Australia team.
And how's the expo been so far?
It's been really excellent. The weather's been holding out for us, getting a little bit of sunshine and enjoying the company here.
Well, I broke my leg recently. Would MBT Shoes help me recuperate a little bit faster?
Yes, they will. MBT is often used as a rehabilitative product, used in physical therapy across the country and the world.
Well, Phil and Paul, I'll be running after you soon, so be afraid. Thanks a lot, Mitchell.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Bob. I'm sure you will. Get back on that bike, boy. But poor old Bob broke his leg skiing in the winter down near his hometown of Durango. But he's making a good recovery now. He only carries those crutches around for effect. I'm sure of that at this moment. Anyway, 41 kilometres still to go. The 4 jerseys there, all safely in the main field at the moment. But once they've left the big fields and the high mountains behind them, Paul, they're going to start. We're into Patterson here, which is the scene of the last Herbalife sprint of the day. Interesting this, I think we'll see Lars Bohm go for it again in the breakaway, because up front there's a bonus of 3 seconds, while the peloton here are out of the hunt for any points at this moment in time.
Well, it's quite interesting, the city of Patterson, Phil, because originally it started its life being known as the Rancho del Puerto, because it was actually originally Mexican land down here. But eventually, when it was colonized by the Pattersons, they decided to try and design a town that was a reflection of Washington, D.C. and Paris as well, which is why we've got so very many long boulevards like this. The center of the town is actually almost a little bit like the Arc de Triomphe, with a lot of the streets circulating and elevating out from it.
Well, there's long straight roads. I know that's what the riders don't like to see if they're in a breakaway that's being brought back, but they're holding again at 3 minutes 25 seconds. You can see by the speed of the peloton over the ground, these boys are racing very, very quickly, but so too the leaders. 40 kilometers, 25 miles to go. Same domestiques, the pacemakers of the day. They're not in this race to win the stage. They're in to try and soften everybody else up so their team leaders win the stage. That will be their thought at the moment. And the national champion of Belgium in the red, black and yellow, Tom Bonen at the back. Now there's a perfect example, Paul, of an echelon, indicating the wind is coming from the top left of our picture.
Well, yes, you can see the diagonal line as Lars Boom has got himself maximum points there at the sprint point, ahead of Jürgen van der Walle and Rob Britton. And so that will be quite useful for Van der Walle to move up the overall standings, and Lars Boom as well. And here's a little bit of a reflection, Phil, of one of those boulevards I was telling you about, because I have to say that this city of Patterson is probably only about 100 years old. The original land here was bought for $500,000 in gold coins. But what the Patterson brothers did was they planted lots and lots of palm trees along the boulevards to make it look as magnificent as it is this afternoon, as well as eucalyptus and sycamore trees.
Well, they've done a good job at that. By the way, that sprint there by Lars Boom has moved him up into second place now, just behind Mark Cavendish in the Herbalife green jersey competition. So if this break were to succeed today, we'd have a new leader in that competition for sure, because Boone would only need a few points at the finishing line to go ahead of Cavendish. 3:20, we've lost 5 minutes. We're looking at Jeremy Powers from Jelly Belly at the moment. And Van der Walle got his head down. He was quite a stretched out position there, this young Belgian rider, but they're working well together still.
Well, the team manager for Rabobank keeps coming up to the front all the time here, giving his man lots of advice. He wants to let him know that they've got a very good chance of creating a bit of a surprise here, because I have a feeling that Lars Boom has held back his energy for this last part of the course, and you can see him talking to and encouraging the other riders. Let's keep working together. Let's take the pace up a little bit now. We're going to start to put pressure on those guys in the main field. We're going to give them a hard ride to pull us back.
But they're not going to surrender. That's clearly apparent now, because Lars Boom, although he's only a young man himself, is vastly experienced these last couple of years, and he's just talking there with Jeremy Powers of Jello Belly, who races here in the United States. Probably a little few words of encouragement. Say, look, we've still got a chance. Let's stay together. Let's help each other. Because if Bohm was to stay clear to the finish, he would make considerable climb up the overall classification. At the moment, he'd go into yellow, but he's not going to hold a 3-minute 15-second lead. But he would also get the green jersey as well.
Well, just for a bit of fun, Phil, before we move away from the city of Patterson, it's a pity we're not here next month, because they have here the Apricot Festival, and it's a great festival that people come to from around the world, because this is, after all, the apricot capital of the world.
Is that what grows on palm trees?
No, those would be dates.
Okay, sorry. Never mind, 3:15 the gap. That's what the most important thing is for these boys at the moment. Chris Horner on the right there, creeping through in the red with the yellow flash on his shoulders there, on his sleeve rather, as they're starting to move up now. We're moving up the red jersey. Just looking here, Jens Voigt's heartbeat at the moment, so he doesn't seem to be panicking at all. It's beating quite normal, about 120 beats a minute.
That is very low. For Jens Voigt, that is almost a training ride heartbeat, but it'll get up a lot higher once we get down towards the finish. It's an indicator that Jens Voigt is in great form, and nowadays he's actually assumed the leader of Team Saxo Bank, because the other two leaders, Andy Schleck and Fabien Cancellara, well, they've been popped out.
Nice little shot of Dave Zabriskie there. Notice that Mick Rogers was not riding far from him. That's very typical. If you're in the leaderboard, you always stay close to the men closest to you, so they don't slip away and get out of sight and out of mind. So Zabriskie in yellow, but the other man just behind him is Rogers, and I can bet your life Leipheimer won't be far away either. Well, we're getting closer to the finish. Patterson is the last competition point on the route now before we head down towards Patterson. Towards the finish rather, in Modesto. We'll be with you all the way to the finish today, and we'll see you in just a moment. Well, we're back here with the Amden Tour of California, and just as we said we'll take a break, there was a crash in the peloton, and this is one rider trying to rejoin, Jason McCartney of the Radio Shack team. I'm happy to report nobody has been hurt in the crash. One or two have taken a little while to get up, and this is the remnants, but we can show you it now, exactly what happened. George Hincapie spotted it and got out of the way of it. There is George there, waits. And there it is, right in the centre of the peloton. I don't know what happened, but George freaked and he went to the right. It took out quite a few. Now, I think, let's try and show you that again in slow motion. We'll all learn something here. That's amazing, right in the centre of the peloton. That was just a simple mistake by a rider. That was no other reason for that. None of the big names are down, except Heinrich Hausler was one of the riders who fell for Cervelo. Theo Boss also involved. I'm not sure, but it looked like it might have been a Jelly Belly rider who went there in the centre of the field. One or two riders looking at to see exactly what happened. Well, the good news is nobody injured, at least nobody left behind. They're all up at riding and chasing. But interestingly, the peloton has not slowed down. They've continued to push on here, and that's why we're seeing a big group getting themselves together and rejoin the main field. So it's been a little bit of a rude awakening, I would say, for these boys. I can see John Cantwell here, the Fly V Australia, a man that could challenge for the sprint finish. So he was delayed, and he's coming back. He's right at the front of this group, and that's two of his teammates riding with him. He's 112, Jonathan Cantwell. Two teammates helping him back. Now look at that. Tom Bonan has moved up towards the front. Now the chase is on to catch those four leaders, isn't it? This is a serious chase now. Well, don't forget that the epic cycle continues on Versus. Daily coverage of the Amgen Tour of California continues tomorrow at 5 Eastern. We're on to the fifth stage, Visalia to Bakersfield. We haven't been there before. Long way, 121 miles. That's the Amgen Tour of California tomorrow at 5 Eastern on Versus, as we get closer to the challenging last 3 days of this event. Look at the speed of the peloton now. They're all of a sudden, somebody has said, we ride. Well, slowly but surely, I noticed in that back group, Jonathan Cantwell, the big sprinter on Fly V Australia, Paul, he has called back 2 teammates to help him. He's just about going to get on, but Radio Shack, they're at it again.
Well, the crosswinds have come, Phil. That's what's happened. And these guys, they have done this so many times in the past. They've waited. We're in the big open plains. We're in the garden basket here of California, where there's so much agriculture, but it's very flat piece of land right down the middle of the state here. And as soon as they felt that crosswind had come to the right direction, don't ever forget that Johan Bruneel comes from Belgium. He knows exactly how dangerous the wind can be on a flat stage like this. They're trying to split the field and see if they've caught anybody out.
Well, evidence on the Tour de France last year on the road to La Grande Motte when Armstrong lost by 22 hundredths of a second to pull on the leader's yellow jersey, all because of the crosswinds. They're driving 2:25 the breakaway. This is going to hurt the breakaway. Lars Boom could handle it, but he can't handle it by himself, and I'm not sure whether the other boys are up to the pace right now. 32 kilometres, 20 miles still to ride. The peloton is really riding now, beginning to fly right through. And the long line of his riders are still rejoining at the back of the peloton. They must wonder what on earth has gone on here, Paul, because nobody slowed down when that crash happened.
No, because I think everybody was concerned about the wind, and the wind can very often be the rider's enemy. Yes, if you get a tailwind, it's a fantastic push towards the finish line, but if you get the wind at 45 degrees, and look at the carnage now, you can see, and that again, have to put the responsibility to that to Johan Bruneel. He was watching the wind, he's been watching the race all day and listening and waiting for this moment. Now all of a sudden they've fractioned the field, because the thing is, if you're in a diagonal line across the road, the guy at the back end of the diagonal, he's not sheltered from the wind at all.
The wind is ripping through the field right now. They're scrambling to grab anything that comes by them, and that's what they want, to try and get into somebody's slipstream, save their energy, recover a little bit. But they are 110% into the red zone now, and they're scrambling. Big George Hincapie here, second in line, stamping on those pedals with Jens Voigt.
Yeah, but where is the yellow jersey? I cannot see the yellow jersey of Dave Zabriskie. There he is. He's trying to ride across the gap. Now that's going to be very difficult. The teammates from Zabriskie have disappeared.
Well, they were right there, but they've been caught. Zabriskie, that's why you're the leader. You've got to provide the energy in the end. And he's coming across this gap with a tremendous show of time-trialing strength. Just about to get onto the back wheel here of Peter Sagan, the best young rider in the white jersey. Tom Bonen saw this coming. The champion of Belgium is in there as well.
So did Mark Cavendish in the green jersey. Herbalife points leader there. He knew what was going down at that point in time. He's managed to make the junction. Big Tom Bonen, you don't catch him out. He's a man from the flatlands of Belgium and knows exactly how to ride in weather conditions like this. Maybe a little bit of respite now, Phil, because this left-hand bend will mean that the wind will now be coming straight onto the riders' faces.
Yeah.
But there were some dedicated riders in that leading group to try and make this thing succeed.
Well, I reckon that they sensed that wind was coming. The crash happened at the same time, which gave them the fillip they wanted, but they went for it. They might be a little unlucky, but the back riders won't. They'll be happy here. As Paul says, they've turned into the headwind, and that might cause a concertina effect, and they might well come up. Now, it looks like we've got a problem here for Rob Britton, the Bissell rider.
He's put his hand in the air, but look at the damage that's done to the time gap there. We're looking at 1 minute and 40 seconds. They wiped up in the space of about 5 kilometres. They blew a minute out of the water.
Yes, and we are in the headwind now and laboring a little bit with that four-man group. There's the reforming. Zabriskie in yellow has got across. Well, this is tremendous bike racing, and we're witnessing it firsthand here as we're watching these boys no longer shadowboxing. They are trying to get themselves ahead of that peloton and get rid of Mark Cavendish and spoil his day out for the sprint. Well, there we are. That's the finishing line. Let me remind you, cycling fans, to head to www.amgentourcalifornia.com. Check out the new Bike Manufacturers Challenge powered by SRAM and witness the battles between the constructors of your favourite bike races. This is a pretty good competition, everyone, and every stage is a fight to determine whose technologies are smart and tough enough to deliver the 2010 Tour of California. So there we are. We're now seeing the bike race turning extremely angry again. Just look at this. There's our bird's eye view from the helicopter. That's the one that gives us the pictures. Radio Shack on the attack. So, and that was the crash. Ooh, well, that hurt, didn't it? We'll take a break. Well, we're back here on the road towards Modesto with the Amgen Tour of California, and look at that as you rejoin. These are live pictures. It's been tough for the chase, but the wind change as the riders went left, it became on their head, and it's caused the split to rejoin here, and a big chase back. Now, we don't believe Michael Rogers was in that breakaway. Armstrong and Leipheimer were, but Rogers has now rejoined here, so the damage has been repaired, but they're still under pressure, very much so just now. But it's a big peloton again, although I think we probably left a few riders down the road, especially those who got caught out in the crash. Now look at the power's gone off at the front. 17 miles from the finish. Mark Cavendish and the sprinters may yet have their day. As we home in from the helicopter, unfortunately the battle has really pulled them out there. But the gap is okay. Now, I think we can do our HTC call of the day here, because I'm being told that Johan Bruneel is on the phone at the Director Sportif of Radio Shack. Can you hear me, Johan?
Yes, hello.
Oh, hi, Johan. Well, did you call that? Did you know the wind change was coming in direction?
Yeah, well, we could look a little bit on the map, so we could kind of see that there was a little crosswind coming, so we gave it a try. But I think I don't have a clear view on what's going on now, so ultimately it did a lot of damage, but we at least tried. One second.
Yeah,
just stay organized, boys. Stay in front, but we don't pull anymore.
There we are. We're just hearing Johan Bruneel go onto his other radio and tell his riders to stop attacking at the front and let somebody else do the work. So he's given up on that tactic as they've all come back together. You okay, Johan? It was a bit like the road into La Grande Motte on the Tour de France for a while, wasn't it?
Can you repeat that? So I have a bad connection. So
yes, no
worries.
Can you
repeat that question?
Yeah, I say it was almost like déjà vu on the roads of the Tour de France a year ago when the race split up.
Well, you know, we kind of we have to try every chance we have. So if you don't try, you will never know. We knew that the possibility of peloton and more even that get rid of some of the favorites was very little. But we had to try. You never know if somebody gets caught in the back. Now everything seems to be back to normal, and I predict a bunch sprint. Hopefully, I don't know, but I hope that the roads are not too wet on the circuit. But from now on till the finish, it's really stay out of trouble and avoid any crashes or any slips in the peloton.
Okay, well, they're a little bit damp at the finishing line, Johan, but they're not exactly wet at the moment. You might make it. Anyway, thanks very much indeed, Johan Bruneel there, our HTC call of the day. And as you probably saw while we were talking to Johan, the breakaway has put itself under pressure as it's gone 2 and 2 up front. Desperate moments. Although as we speak, it looks there might be all back together here. Yes, it is. They've all come back together. These are the leaders, and there's another attack, and it's now coming from Jelly Belly's Powers, who's launched away, and quickly after him is Lars Boom. And Boom's gone on his own. So Boom has gone on his own, Paul. Desperate moments, 40 seconds the gap. There's always hope if you're in the lead. 25 kilometres to go. But these long straight roads are at the worst time today. They can see all of this in the peloton, which has regrouped, and Johan Bruneel has actually told his riders to stop riding.
Well, I think that was logical. It was an ideal time to go once they were riding along with the crosswind, and that was an ideal moment to try and hijack the lead off Dave Zabriskie. But Zabriskie was attentive. He was there. He was at the front end of the main field. He had to dig very deep to ride himself across to that split, but once he'd made it, I think that took away the impetus of a desire to force the race down to the finish.
Well, it was Bissell's Rob Britton who made that final move, quickly joined here by Lars Boom. Now they're coming back together again with Britton, with Powers and Van der Volle. But it's all over, bar the shouting. 25 kilometres to go. They never hold the field off for 40 seconds. And when we do come into Modesto, there are 2 finishing circuits today. A total of 8 kilometres run around the town. So we're only 16 kilometres now from seeing the finishing line first time through.
And it's always tricky when you've got a finishing circuit around a city centre, because it makes it precarious, it makes it a little bit dangerous, but it gives the sprinters a chance to have a look at the finishing line before they get there. Team BMC, where I think would have been the team, Phil, that almost got caught out by that little acceleration. So I think everyone now can breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah, just about. You've always got to try it, though, haven't you? As Johan Brunel said to us, you never know what happens. So, as we're watching the fans here, well, let me remind you of something now, the Michelob Ultra Roll with Bob competition. Don't forget to register for the Michelob Ultra Roll with Bob contest for the chance to ride a mountain stage in the Tour de France with Bob Roll. Also, Bob will bring new bikes for you and your friends to ride in your hometown. Log on to versus.com/ultra or text ROLL to ULTRA. That's the way to go with Bob Roll. He's got to get himself back on his bike, I must say. But as we watch the big bunch here recover from a very nasty acceleration, caught 1 or 2 out, but they've recovered because of the change of direction and that long straight road. At the top of the road is the city of Modesto. Remember, we've got 2.7 mile circuits of the city once we get there. So we will see what we go. So no NHL today, everybody. I'm delighted to say you will watch every inch of us stage today all the way to the finishing line. So stay with us. We'll take another break. The 4 Musketeers out there, well, they're coming back. It's only a question of when. We'll see you in a moment. Okay, let's take a look now at our SunGuard stage reset. It's been a good day out today for one of the riders in the breakaway who's no longer there, Ryan Anderson, because as soon as he climbed the last climb of the day, he dropped back, but he was now the new leader in the Californian Travel and Tourism King of the Mountains competition. Lars Bohm has also moved up into second place in the points competition by being in this breakaway. And he's also still, well, he's just out of the current leadership on the road now, but those 4 riders, Bohm, Van der Walle, Britton and Powers, are still in the lead, just about by the seat of their pants, but they're still out in front on this long stage as we head in towards town on our breakaway from Kansas-sponsored stage today in the Amgen Tour of California. There we are, 13.7 miles to go. Those 4 coloured jerseys. The line of washing is all in the main field now, having had 1 or 2 shocks about 5 or 6 miles back, but they're now all back in that big field. Concentration. New leader in the King of the Mountains today, Ryan Anderson, Paul, because he picked up the climb of the Mines Road and he also won the top of Sierra Road. I should have worked it out, but that's why he didn't get dropped after that climb. He'd done his job to get the lead. It fell off.
He did exactly what he knew he had to do, just to get to a few points out on the open road, and said, that's enough, job done for me. I've got to come out and do battle again. I feel a little bit sorry for these guys, Phil, because they are being left out to stew in the warmness of the finish around here in Modesto, because the main field came to around about 40 seconds. Then they've just sat up before they get themselves organised a little bit later on.
Well, they've taken it out to a minute now, so you've got to think they're just letting it all unfold behind them, but they're sticking to their guns of riding to the limit of their ability. Jeremy Powers here, flying the flag for Jelly Belly. Let's give him a plug, because this team has been in every break so far this week. And Jürgen van der Walle, well, he's a top bike rider out of Europe. He's on a Pro Tour team of Quick Step. It was good to see him going in a break today. And now he wants to try and make it hang on to the finish. 21 kilometres to go, but remember, the last 8.5 kilometres are around the finishing circuit in Modesto. So we're not that far out of town.
Well, you get a chance here as we come into the outskirts of Modesto, Phil, to just see why this is an important city in the area. It's not only is it a cultural centre, but it's also a real centre for the farm produce that abounds in this area. This is the area where you get an awful lot of almonds, and that's not a bad fruit to have and not a bad nut to have if you're a professional cyclist. But for the moment, these guys, I don't think they'll be going into any of the local produce shops at the side of the road. What they'll be thinking about is who's going to start the chase at the front end of this main field, who's going to start to the organisation. And you know, I think as always they're going to leave it up to HTC Columbia.
I think they've got to, and then all the sprinters will start looking after Mark Cavendish to see how he positions himself in the field. Now, we came into Sacramento on the circuit there, which was a good circuit it seemed, but apparently the corners caused quite a few problems. Riders did crash. One of them, I think it was Andrew Pinfull, went slapping into the team bus of HTC Columbia. Very ironic, because that was Mark Cavendish's team bus, and his tyre marks were at the side of the bus when we went to check it later on.
No, they certainly were. It was a dramatic run into the finish. I think a lot of that, Phil, was to do with it was the first stage. It was a big sprint. Everybody wanted to get across the line in first place, but everybody was battling to get into the slipstream of Mark Cavendish, very much like you see the battles in the IndyCar racing and as you see in Formula One. It's so important to get into the slipstream so you can catapult yourself out at the very last minute. But I haven't seen anyone with a very good catapult yet to get out of Mark Cavendish's slipstream.
Well, if he hits the front at the plans, which is about 150 out, then he just goes, and I've never seen anybody get by him. There's the peloton. When you see the front end blunt like that, it means the pressure has come off. It's not the arrowhead that you see when they are really attacking. So they are actually trying to back off here and leave these four guys to fry for a little bit longer. The reason being, if they catch them, it's the old tale in pro bike racing, there will be immediate attacks on the peloton. This is the distraction now as they continue inside 20 kilometers, and the gap is going up slightly. They're going to have to be careful, Paul. They can't afford to let it go too far, otherwise they might stay away to the finish.
Well, they have to be very careful, and that's what will be in the back of their minds. They're all serious professional bike riders. They know just exactly how hard they have to ride. And one team, it was quite interesting to watch the movie Chasing Legends at the start in Sacramento, because it gave us much more insight into how these teams actually sometimes leave a breakaway out like a mouse being played with a cat. And that's the important thing, because any moment now these guys are going to say, right, enough's enough, let's get the thing going now and get this over with.
Right, we're looking at the back of the field here. A lot of black jerseys back there. Brett Lancaster, who wore the yellow jersey for just a day, is back there. I think also Heinrich Hausler is there, because he was down in that crash, and just when yesterday he showed us that he was finding his legs by getting into that very select chase group on the final climb of the day on Bonnie Doon. Four riders, they have a little conversation here. They're just trying to decide. Rob Britton talking here with Van der Volle. They just don't know what to do now. They know what the peloton is doing. That's dangling them. But 1:15, it may be a miscalculation by the peloton, and that is what they must also consider now.
And again, people always say to me, why do guys go in a breakaway? What's the point of going into a breakaway? Because 9 times out of 10 they get caught. Well, it's that 1 time out of 10 that these guys are dreaming about, because we can outfox the main peloton. They can make a mistake, and all of a sudden we've got the stage victory that we've been looking for. And that's what those 4 guys in that leading group are thinking about. And they see the clock starting to go up to a minute and 20 seconds with inside of 20 kilometers to go. They'll start to get encouraged once again. They'll start to ride hard at the front again, thinking, right, this time we've got one over on them.
Well, the Leaky Gas team, those lime green boys, trying to keep up now at the front, because they've got Francesco Kiki, who is their big sprinter, but they've also got a very fast finisher in Peter Sagan, the 20-year-old who's the best young rider competition. He'll want to also be up there. Otherwise, it is possible for him to lose his white jersey to the ever-present Mark Cavendish as well. But they're being challenged all of the time here. Well, that's unlikely. Mark has lost a little bit more time now, but he's certainly got to watch it. The green jersey is also possible for Sagan at the moment.
I'm a bit surprised, Phil, to see Team Cervelo test team. We often see them sitting at the back end of the main field, but I'll tell you what, when they come into town, I would think we're going to be treated to what looks to me as getting organised at the front end of the main field, a massive big express train coming into the outskirts of Modesto, because I suppose that's a good analogy, because did you know that Modesto is on one of the busiest rail corridors in the United States, from San Francisco all the way down to LA?
Well, I did until 4 hours ago, but sat where we are sat, Paul, our commentary position is shaken and shaken, because the freight trains are going past every 5 minutes.
Well, this is a big Amtrak route, and that's what I think we're going to see in a minute, because we will have the big freight train of the Amgen Tour of California coming into town, and we'll get a chance to see what they look like and judge exactly what the distance is between them, because they'll cross the finish line before they go out onto the finishing circuits.
Keep your eye on the clock. Oh, it's already gone back 5 seconds. Look at the change of shape now as they've remolded the peloton into a long, thin line. So whatever has been said, and the attack is on again now. The long straight road goes into Modesto. Then we're on a rather tricky circuit around the town. 2 times around that town. They'll want everybody to be back in the fold, and they'll want their sprinters right on the front.
And the fact is, Phil, there's a little acceleration at the front as we go back there. This time it's Jurgen van der Waal, and the man put into difficulty is Jeremy Powers. He was looking to me as if he was struggling a few moments ago because the top half of his body was nodding about a little bit. He's not quite got the power he had in the breakaway in the early part of this race. And he, I think, very shortly will have the company of the remnants of the main field just behind him.
Well, you know, Jeremy Powers has been in the lead today for around about 160 kilometres. That's 100 miles up front today for this young man. And he's now said enough is enough. The final acceleration has hurt these boys, and Powers is going back to the bunch. 1 minute and 5 seconds. They've nibbled it out just about. And it's Jurgen van der Waal here, one of the most experienced riders in the breakaway, who is now just seeing what is possible in this breakaway.
Well, van der Waal has been around for an awful long time, 33 years of age. Lars Boom has gone bang down the other side of the road and said, right, guys, I think we may well cause a bit of a surprise here this afternoon. And look at that man's legs going, and he's got the gap immediately.
Well, if Lars Boom's decided to go, it's up to the others to chase him down. Now, this boy has been champion of cyclocross almost since he started the sport, beginning when he was national junior champion back in 2001. He has won 38 road races as well. And so he's no newcomer, the champion of the Tour of Belgium last year. And he's decided to give it one final shot, and that is a fine piece of riding.
It's an excellent piece of riding. You talked about him being a cyclocross champion way back in 2001. Well, in that discipline of the sport in Holland, he has never been defeated over the last 10 years.
And that is a premier sport in Holland. It's one of their main winter sports in that country. And everybody was surprised when he turned down, well, not turned it down, but left where he was a very high-profile sport to go out and do his summer cycling. But he's gone straight to the top. He started out the year with a win in the prologue time trial of Paris-Nice, one of the biggest early season races in the world, and he went and beat all the road stars.
Well, I tell you what, a lot of people said his win in the prologue time trial was probably just because he was coming off the cyclocross season. He had the form at the start of the year, and he was able to accelerate a lot faster than anybody else. But since then, he's consolidated in a lot of other races around the world, and he's starting to prove that he is going to be a great road racing rider. Now you start to see the organisation at the front end of the main field. You see all the red jerseys there from Radio Shack. They're not thinking about a stage victory. They just want to make sure they keep Levi Leipheimer out of trouble at the front end of the main field, because we saw in Sacramento a lot of crashes. Now, if those crashes happen outside of 3 kilometres to go, we can see a change in the overall standings.
Well, it's being left to the big three here now. Zabrisky's Garmin transitions coming through in the orange tops. Radio Shack for Leipheimer, HTC for Rogers. The big three from yesterday who have established the podium for the moment at least. As they scurry through, Lars Boom is trying to spoil the show here. He's going off on his own, and that is tremendous. Now he may get away with this, you know. He's not going to get the race lead now. 1 minute 47 down overnight. He's only 55 seconds in front. But they may not try to bring him back. It's up to HTC for Cavendish.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Lars Boom is one of those very special riders who's got a great chance of creating that surprise. You have to have a massive big engine to ride off the front end of a main field, especially on the run into the finish of a stage like this. But that guy has got a big engine. He's the big V8 on Team Rabobank, and he has said that he wants to get himself a stage victory here. And let's not forget, Rabobank are an important sponsor of the event, and they're here in great numbers.
They are indeed, and they sponsor the white jersey competition. Here's the return of Jeremy. Jeremy Powers has gone back into the bunch. Start to accelerate, Jeremy, because these boys are not going to wait for you. And as he'll go back into the pack, he'll try and hang on. It'll be a tough call to hang on. Now quickly going around him here as he tries to establish a place in the warmth of the peloton. It won't be easy then. He'll keep up at the moment, but whether they accelerate, then he may have a problem on his hands. Right, so that's one of the break. We're down to 3 men up front. The question is Lars Boom still on his own? It's a big question because we haven't been up there recently.
No, well, I think he probably is, and they don't have to worry too much about catching Lars Boom, Phil, because he started the day 1 minute and 44 seconds behind the top men at the overall leaders board. Zabriskie and, of course, Mick Rogers and Levi Leipheimer, so he's not really a dangerous threat in the overall classification.
Well, be careful because, yeah, he's minute 47, but he's had 2 6-second time bonuses.
Yeah, but
2 3-second time bonuses.
He's a long way from 1 minute 44 because his advantage here is only 50 seconds, so I don't think he's going to rattle the top end of the overall standings. He's got a minute to try and pull back.
Yeah, we get a small bonus of 10 seconds, but he'd be right up amongst it. He'd make the top 4 overall if he were to survive at this moment, but I don't think that's possible, quite honestly.
Me neither.
14 kilometres to go. 45 seconds. It's the 2 circuits of the town which will spoil the party for him, I would suspect. These boys continue to set the pace. HTC thinking a double-header here. 1, to keep Mick Rogers right up on the overall for later, and 2, to get Mark Cavendish there. The boys have come back, and it was all Jurgen van der Walle's effort.
Well, van der Walle, experienced Belgian professional, 33 years of age. He used all of his courage to pull himself back to that one. And I think now we may well see that these 3 riders will get caught down towards the end. Boom tried to get himself off the front end of the main field, but look at that. Van der Walle has just gone straight over the top of them.
45 seconds of the gap, and van der Walle is trying to turn the tables now. And 13.5 kilometers to go, but 8 of those, so we're in the streets, the outskirts of Modesto now. 8 of those will be around and round the centre of the town. So we're only about 5 kilometers or 3 miles from seeing the finishing line first time through.
Yep, they're looking over their shoulders, Phil. That is not a good sign when you see a breakaway like that, looking over their shoulders, because they realise they're looking for one thing, and they're looking for the big pack behind them.
Well, just look at the peloton over the local freeway. It looks as though it's getting a bit busy out there today, because downtown is completely closed for the arrival of the Amgen Tour of California. And we're on the outskirts of town. We're going to take a break now, but everybody, I promise you, when you come back, you'll be with us all the way to the finish line today of the Amgen Tour of California. Who will win? That's a question, isn't it?
Some of these painted road signs.
That's Modesto, the dead center of the state of California. We are now coming to the conclusion of stage 4 of the Amgen Tour of California, brought to us by Breakaway for Cancer. And we're looking here at a real scramble now, because again the leaders as we speak have just split up, and this is Lars Bohm trying to go away. The other 2 trying to nail him back, and the gap 20 seconds to the peloton. Well, this is the only thing he can do. It's 20 seconds, 9.8 kilometers, about a kilometer and a bit, and he will see that finishing line. And look at the gap, 20 seconds. This is a grandstand finish.
It's going to be a grandstand finish. He's hit them and he's hit them again, Lars Bohm. He's doing everything he can to show off that Rabobank name, one of the great sponsors of the sport of professional cycling, whether it's cyclocross, track racing, men or women's racing, or even the Tour de France. They have been the backbone of Dutch cycling for many, many years. And Lars Bohm, I think, is one of those riders who they've developed, Phil, for almost 10 years.
Well, Premier Passage, that's the first lap here now. As we come through, we'll go through 2 more times. We're in the straight. This will be the home straight for the sprinters. It's a little while away just yet. It looks like Spider Tech here have got themselves front. The Canadian team here maybe trying to set it up perhaps for Gilbert as we start to come up towards the finish. Martin Gilbert, because they've got 4 men on the front now. That's a surprise, Paul.
Not to me, Phil. The Tour of Missouri last year, they in fact were very dominant as sprinters. In fact, don't forget that Martin Gilbert won a stage of the Tour of Missouri, and they've had 1st and 3rd on that occasion. They've got some very good sprinters on that Canadian squad, and of course they've got a great team manager in the name of Steve Bauer, who for 10 years was a top professional rider on the international circuit.
And trying to get something out of it for his team, because in fairness, they're 2 top contenders here, unable to start. One suffering sadly from mononucleosis, and the other one from an injury, so they were unable to come to the start. So this would be one terrific consolation if something were to happen there. The peloton itself, though, is still looking to get itself organised. And meanwhile, Lars Bohm gets on with the job. 10 seconds, though. Goodness, 8 kilometres to go.
I tell you one thing, though, Phil. Those legs of his now are starting to pop. They're asking for surrender. They're asking for a little bit of respite from the pain that he's been under for the last couple of kilometres. The 2 remnants there of that breakaway are about to go back into the fold. That leaves just 1 man up the road. And these boulevards, this is a magnificent racing circuit around here. It's ideal for the main field, and I'm sorry to say for Lars Bohm, it's not that great for a single rider on his own.
Well, they timed this. They held off till we entered the streets of Modesto to do the catch. And then the teammates of the sprinters will turn the screw that little bit tighter. But Bohm is still clear, pedaling a low gear, as he's now got 10 seconds. Won't be long before he gets round again towards the finish. It's a 4.3 kilometer circuit. It is a bit tortuous at times. We're on good roads at the moment. But when they all come together and they start scrambling for wheels, it might be a different story.
Well, there again, HTC Columbia all over the front end of the main field. There's the lime green jersey of Mark Cavendish, 6th position there. Bert Grabsch is still finding a lot of energy on the front end of this field, and not far further back there. You can see Mark Renshaw. Ouch, it's all over for Boom.
It's all boom, boom, as Paul Sherman would say, and out have gone the lights now because Lars Bohm has come back into the field. Great show of defiance by the Rabobank rider. Great show of real cycling talent as well. He'll live to fight and win another day, believe me, but it's not going to be today. The field are now all together, and it's eyes down for the top sprinter to win.
Well, there's Jens Voigt in the black jersey in the middle there for Team Saxo Bank. He will be looking after JJ Hayedo, the man who got closest to Mark Cavendish around the streets of Sacramento. They will wait till the very last minute to try and move their man JJ up to the front to get him onto the wheel of Mark Cavendish. Cavendish has got to stay. There's a number of riders gone down there. They went straight off the road.
Oh, well, that looks like a Radio Shack rider who's actually, yeah, it looks as though we've got down there. Popovic has gone down, overshot the corner, clipped the red line. Problem with his bike, that's unlucky for Jaroslav Popovic, because at the distance from the finish he is losing real time here. If that had happened inside 3 kilometers to go, the international rules state he will get the same time as the winner today, but that won't be the case now. He will lose time there, but I don't suppose that in itself is so important for the team.
Well, the black jersey's on the front. This is Cervelo test team. Now the big question is, Phil, who are they going to lead the sprint out for? Is it going to be Heinrich Hausler? Is it going to be Theo Boss? One thing's for certain, one man who will be helping in that lead out today is the former leader of the Amgen Tour of California, Brett Lancaster, going back to the job that he has done so ably over many years, leading out some of the world's top sprinters.
Well, we're just about a mile from completing this opening circuit, and then we'll have one more to go before the finish. So there's still a little way to run in this race yet. Still chance, and look at this now. Team Cervelo are driving this at the front. Well, this is an interesting race this year. It's not all about Mark Cavendish and HTC Columbia. Other teams feel they can break him.
Well, you remember what team won this race last year into Modesto? It just happens to have been Cervelo test team with Thor Hushovd. He broke his collarbone just before they came to the start there this year, so he wasn't able to participate. But they've still got a very good sprinter in their midst, Theo Boss. He was a great track sprinter. He was a man who could ride at 200 meters in less than 10 seconds, 9.98 or something like that, which really is quite remarkable. And he's moved across to ride on the road, so he's got the same track sense as Mark Cavendish. This is going to be a great battle.
It is going to be a good battle, and this year already Boss has hit the first line 4 times. He won in the Classic Almeria, a stage of the Tour of Murcia. All his victories coming in Spain so far. But now he's going to try and find a victory right here in the center of California. It'll be interesting because they've got faith in him. Oh, but you know, there were signs yesterday that Hausler was recovering too, and he's a very fast finisher.
Well, this is exactly what they did last year. This is when they clicked for the first time in their Cervelo test team career. They were at the front end of the main field, just taking their man to the finish. Fabian Cancellara doesn't look as if he's too interested in the bunch sprint here this afternoon. I'm trying to figure out the other sprinters they've got to lead out there. They've got Jeremy Hunt himself, a very good sprinter, but he will be waiting, I think, to be the lead-out man for Heinrich Hausler and Theo Boss.
I'll tell you what, Fabian Cancellara has just had a flat tyre. That's why he's going out the back, and he's going to lose real time as well. He's not hit that magic 3 kilometers to go yet. So that really is bad luck.
Stewie O'Grady over on the right-hand side. He's moving up to try and get his man, and that's going to be JJ Hayedo up to the front end of the main field. And it looks as if it's going to be the lead out for Theo Boss there, Phil, because he was the man at the back end of that line.
And just look how the back end is lying out there onto the second lap now. 4.5 kilometers to go to the finish. We are on the last circuit now of Modesto. The line is long and thin. It's too late for the guys at the back. They will not get to the front now.
Now still losing one man. This is the most important part of the race. You've got to try and make sure you've got enough bodies capable to take your sprinter to the last 300 or 400 meters. Looks like Jez Hunt is still in there. That's Heinrich Hausler is third in that line. Theo Bos is fourth in the line. So it's going to be for the Dutchman this afternoon.
Yeah, but Rabobank's gone on the left of our picture and shot straight to the camera. Can we pick him up? There he is, and he's going very, very quickly. Now, this could disrupt the sprinters here. We couldn't even hold the picture steady, but there he is under the trees, and that's another problem now for the boys in black.
You've got to be a special man, Phil, to ride off the front end of a bunch like this, charging through the streets of Modesto at 60 kilometers an hour. There's not very many men in the sport who've been able to make a move like this. One of them, in fact, is one of the team managers for a Team Radio Shack, Vyacheslav Ekimov. He won a stage of the Tour de France just like this on the road into Chalon. What the teams of the sprinters do at a moment like this, Phil, is they don't panic. They keep their tempo, they keep their organisation, and they wait for the rider in front to fade. This is Martin Jalingi. He was in the breakaway on the first day of the Amgen Tour of California, but he ain't going too far now.
No, but you've got to try that and destroy the thinking of the sprinters teams here and realign their focus on a single attacking rider. So that's what he's trying to do here. And Rabobank themselves, they haven't really got a big sprinter to handle it now, and they've lost Lars Bohm because he's been caught. Jangeli here is also being brought back into the pack. But just take your eyes down behind the boys in black and look at the bumping and banging as the sprinters try to position themselves behind their own teammates here.
There's another move gone straight over the top of that one. Jalingi's been brought back into the fold, and again, Rabobank have decided here this afternoon they're going to go for it. They've had their man in the breakaway, and they're throwing caution to the wall.
This is now Paul Martins who is having a dig, the German rider on the Dutch setup. That is good riding by a team with no obvious sprinter to do a counter-attack with another teammate, because they can work, and there's been a crash at the back. This isn't so good. Armstrong on the left of the road here has also gone down. They've lost 2 Radio Shack. Peter Latham is the New Zealander from Bissell.
Did you see? This man is so calm. He walked across to the referee just to make sure that the referee knew that he was there, and he was inside of 3 kilometers to go.
Luckily for Lance, he can pedal home now at his own speed. No worries. He will get the time of the winner today, because that magic 3 kilometers under international rules mean you can't lose time if you fall in the last 3 kilometers of the day. Well, Paul Martin still clear.
Still clear at the front. The reason for that law, Phil, is to make sure that at least we can have safe runs in towards the finish, and the guys looking to win these races overall don't have to get involved in the crazy risks that the sprinters usually adopt. Armstrong at the back, that's not a problem. He's inside the 3 kilometer mark, but what's important now is what's going on at the front. Is the race still being controlled by Cervelo Test Team? Looking down from the sky there, they seem to have lost a little bit of organisation now, but I can't see.
They've got Quick Step down there now. They've taken over. Maybe they're looking here to get Tom Bonen through the front.
Well, Tomoka Bonen will be the man trying to get himself the victory. He really wants to get a stage victory here at the Amgen Tour of California, but it seems as if Team HTC Columbia have been completely swept away here this afternoon. There's the Liquigas line starting to come up on the left-hand side. They're looking after, of course, Peter Sagan, but their man, Francesco Chicchi.
But having said all this, we're not talking about Team HTC Columbia and the green jersey of Mark Cavendish. It's the other teams who have hit him at the front, and Cav is being left to look after himself a little bit now as we approach the Kenda 1 kilometre. This is where Cavendish would normally be brought forward with his teammates, and they're moving up. There they go.
Well, they're moving up now. It's a big organisation. That is Mark Cavendish in 3rd place. He's the one with the green helmet on, but it's man against man now. 2 lines as they go around the corner, starting to line themselves up. Cavendish is down in about 4th or 5th position, but you see big Mick Rogers on the front there trying to wind it up in front of Mark Cavendish. Is, of course, his own teammate, his own lead-out man, the man who launches him all of the time, Mark Renshaw.
But the one man who could spoil this possibly, Jonathan Cantwell, because that Fly V Australia has got themselves organised today. The Quick Step boys are there, but looking down from the camera, I don't see the championship at all of Belgium, and that's Tom Bonen. As they're making the line up for the finish now, they seem to have organised themselves now. They've got Cavendish in the right place. We're waiting to see if Mark Renshaw can then bring him through, as he so often does. Remember, this might be the last day for the sprinters. Cantwell goes with him now. Renshaw is taking on the Aussies at the front. Now it is through the middle, and Haido trying to get on the shoulder here. Oh, but Mark Cavendish is going to be desperately close, and Cav has been tested, and Cav has been beaten, because right on the line, Francesco Chicchi has taken it from JJ Haido, and I think Mark Cavendish has been relegated there, Paul, to 3rd place.
Well, he did everything right. He was given a very long lead out by Mark Renshaw, but they were all queuing up to see whether or not HTC Columbia would make a mistake, and they did. They lost their riders a little bit too far out from the line. Look at this. Haido's got the gap here in the middle, going right up, but he's starting to fade. Looks across at Chicchi and knows, oh, It's not going to be my turn today. Cav is going to cross the line in 3rd place there, but he will extend his lead, Phil, in the point competition, but that's not really what he was looking for. He was looking for the win.
Sprinters do not like being beaten, and it was disorganised today by the other teams putting their big men on the front, and they broke up the rhythm of HTC Columbia, and they are beatable, and they've proved it today. But I feel sorry for JJ because he's beaten again to the line, and this time it's not Cavendish who beats him, but it is Francisco Kiki. Meanwhile, this is the Radio Shack boys. They're not worried about who won today because they've done their job. They've kept the status quo in the overall. They've fallen off, so therefore they get the same time as the winners today because their crash came inside 3 kilometres to go.
Well, Armstrong seemed fairly unperturbed about that. He actually don't think he really went onto the ground there, but he was forced to go off the track and lost contact with the group, but the race referees were on side. There is Andy Schleck coming in as well, champion of Luxembourg. Jeremy Hunt for Team Cervelo Test Team. They did what they could to try and get their men up to the front there this afternoon, but again, they made the lead out much too far out from the line, and when they came down to the final kilometres, they didn't have enough firepower left.
That's right. Now, it's up to the referees now to decide who was involved in the accident and who has been dropped from the group. If the riders have been dropped from the group because of they simply couldn't keep up, they will be given a separate time. But judging by the smiles on Radio Shack's faces, these boys know that they're okay and they're in with the same time as the winners today. Well, the clock continues to count, of course, but in case they get dock time, but they won't, rest assured. There are 4 guys from Radio Shack here.
There's Lars Boom coming in as well, the man who dominated the race very early on.
He would get a dock time of 2:14.
I think he probably will have done, but he's not too worried about that, I don't think, Lars Boom. Phil, as far as he's concerned, it was a good job in the breakaway.
Well, we're just looking down in Modesto now. That was a very good finishing circuit in the end. But at last, the sprinters have got the hang of how to beat Mark Cavendish, it seems. And they did well. We'll take a quick break now. And then coming up, we'll bring you all of the results, the podiums. And if we can grab an interview, then we'll give it to you. See you in just a moment. Stage 4, brought to you by Breakaway from Cancer, has just finished here in downtown Modesto. It was a long ride for the riders. 4 guys almost survived, but in the end, the sprinters did have their day, but we're not reporting a win for Mark Cavendish. He's only crossed the line in 3rd place today. Francisco Kiki of the Leaky Gas team has just picked up his 5th win of the year. And without doubt, it was a very well-judged sprint, pipping JJ Haido and Mark Cavendish and Theo Boss, 3 very, very well-known world sprinters. So he's going to be very pleased with that, I think. Rightly so for the Leaky Gas boys, because they've ridden very hard today and they were part of that chase which gave him the victory. Okay, let's have a look at the highlights of a great day of racing today. And it was down at the start in San Jose where the riders rolled out in very, very nice warm sunshine. It was to lose ground a bit, the weather, as we went into the hills. The first climb of the day was Sierra Road. The breakaway was already on its way. And heading up the Sierra Road, it was a good day for Ryan Anderson because he was building a lead. Then came this crash, which George Hincapie in the stripes and stars that he saw it coming, dodged it. At the same time, the field turned the screw very tight, leaving a lot of these riders to work very hard to get back. But none were injured in the crash, other than a few scrapes and scratches. So they all got back on the bikes and continued. But that was what the wind did. It ripped the field to pieces. And if we hadn't turned left and into the headwind, all of these boys would have been coming in minutes behind today, that's for sure. It took a big effort by the maillot jaune, the yellow jersey of the race, Dave Zabriskie, to put his head down and catch the leaders, because he didn't know they were going to turn left and they'd come back together anyway, so he did rejoin the front group. The crowds on the outskirts of Modesto cheered the group on all of the way, including Jeremy Powers here at Jelly Belly. But at the end of the day, Powers was the first of the 4 riders caught, and eventually they were all coming back together as desperate moments for Lars Bohm, as he tried to stay away on the finishing circuits around Modesto. But as they continued to be caught up again, it all came together at around the 7 kilometres to go to the finish. But this wasn't the end of it. Now we're inside 3 kilometres to go. Lance Armstrong was very lucky. He didn't actually fall. He was delayed. Oh, this is the Popovich crash. This was a little bit before. Poor old Popovich would lose time. He was outside the 3-kilometer marker and still trying to go for gold. Where the Rabobank team with another attack here by Jangali. He got picked up. And then they attacked again with Paul Martins, and they tried desperately to steal this show on the finishing circuit from the sprinters. It didn't happen. This was the crash at just inside 3 kilometers. Armstrong was forced to stop, but he didn't fall from his bike. But as the delay came in that last 3 kilometers, happy enough to know that he'd be given the same time as everybody else, including the rider on the ground. Then it came to the big finish. It should have been routine for Mark Cavendish, was it? Heck, because a big sprint finish here by Haidou in the centre, and then a late rush by Kiki gave Kiki his 5th win, Haidou his second this week, and Mark Cavendish an unaccustomed 3rd place. But he will have increased his lead in the Herbalife points competition. Let's have a look at the results, and there's the confirmation. Nearly 5 hours in the saddle today. Theo Boss completed the top 4. Jonathan Cantwell looked good in the lead out, but he faded in the end to 5th place. Don't bank on him not getting a good result at some stage. He's a very good rider. He won 28 races last year, Jonathan Cantwell, the majority of them being in the sprint finish. He does a lot of racing in the United States. Christophe is still there in 6th place. Who have we got? Top 10 completed by Boivin of Canada. He's on the Spider Sec. All right, well, let's have a look then at our ride ID of the day. And we're going to have a look, I would think, at Francisco Kiki, because that was a ride today, having pipped the top sprinter in the world right on the line. And I mean, the man who finished 3rd, see him shake his head. Okay, and if you think you can predict tomorrow's stage win, it's getting more and more difficult. Head on over to roadid.com/winner. A chance to win $1,000. And you also get entered into a grand draw, which could see you coming to the Tour de France. So that's our Road ID ride of the day, as we now take a look down here at Modesto. Waiting for the overall classification to come at us now. It shouldn't be any change. Here is the yellow jersey podium with our V Australia hostesses presenting it to Dave Zabriskie, the first man to defend this week, because we've had a change every day until today. Zabriskie hangs on. Had to work a little bit hard out on the road to do that. And he's only protecting a few seconds advantage overall. Don't forget, there'll be no change overall with the big pack coming in together. The lower place sprinters overall winning the small time bonuses. So when we do see the overall standings, we'll see no change here. Zabriskie has room to smile now. He loves California in the sun. There's the Home Depot overall standings then. Zabriskie leads by exactly the same as he did this morning. Got Michael Rogers 4 seconds, Levi Lightpower 6, Sagan at 21, and Mark DeMar. No change at all on time or names there as we head out on stage 6 tomorrow. See if we can show you any more here, but there's really no change. There's some more for you. Brakovic is still in the hunt for Radio Shack. Hejudal for Garmin. Tommy Danielson for Garmin as well, and Peter Stettner, 10th place. Watch out for that youngster. He rides a good time trial. It's only 27 seconds off the pace at the moment. So no reason why he can't move up and challenge Peter Sagan for his white jersey at all. Now, there's the award there for Francisco Kiki, who's looking forward now to taking a rather big trophy back home to Italy. As the crowd here will give him a big cheer here. That was a great sprint finish, and the sprint so well timed today, which was great for him. Looks a very nice trophy, actually, that he's been given there. Win number 5 for Kiki this year. He's a pretty good winner anyway. He's won a total of 18 races in his career. Now, while he's making way to meet 2nd and 3rd on the podium, let's have a look where we are going tomorrow. Always in the state of California, remember, from Visalia. We have a long ride tomorrow as we go down to a finish in Bakersfield. And it's 121.5 miles, nearly 200 kilometers of riding tomorrow for the riders. The profile, the action is in the middle on the old stage road, and then we've got a few nasty little climbs towards the end that could well give us a springboard. The circuits at the finish too. I wouldn't put this one necessarily down for the sprinters, I don't think. And so don't forget, Stage 4 Rio tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow, Stage 5, as we go to Bakersfield, will come to 5 p.m. Eastern. That's 2 on the West Coast. Stage 5 Rio tomorrow night, the same time, 11 p.m., 8 Pacific timing. So it has been a tremendous day of racing, and we saw the finish today, and that also has helped us with a big bonus. It's been a great day of racing. The Amgen Tour of California goes on. Our clothing provided by Izod. Don't forget to go to Versys.com and catch up with all of the links there. Any interviews we can put on board that we can't show you during our live coverage. Yes, it's goodbye for now, and that's for sure, but it'll be hello tomorrow as we go back onto the roads of California. The race continues as we move into the second half of the week, and there's still, as they say, everything to race for. For the team here in Modesto, goodbye.